morning, Sharon.
Hi, Jordan. How are you?
How I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Pretty good. I'm doing well.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to chat today, and obviously, I know more about your journey. We've been together for a few years now, as coworkers at one point, and now friends, obviously. So we're gonna dive into that.
Okay.
For those viewers that aren't familiar or haven't joined for a session before, I'll quickly introduce myself. I don't want to take up too much time. I'd rather chat with you. But my name is Jordan. I am the International New and Social Media Officer here on campus. And what that means is I help oversee social media, help run our live events. I manage our Global Ambassador program, and I do a bit more too. But I'll pass it over to Sharon to introduce herself and chat about what she does here.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Sharon. I also go with Siyao. It's my Chinese name. I took environmental management and forestry at Lakehead University. My hometown in China is Taiyuan, the capital city of Shanxi province. Yeah, I've been living in Thunder Bay for a while. Let me know if you have any questions. Send us a message. I would love to answer all of it.
Awesome. Well, I know we're going to dive into quite a bit here. We're going to chat about your journey from China and what that decision process looked like. And then, of course, we're going to chat about academics and your experience within each of your programs. But also, we're going to chat about your student life. I know you lived on campus in residence. You also were involved in quite a few clubs. So I'm really excited to dive into that. And we got a shout out from one of your old friends, one of our old friends and old coworkers. It's nice to see you joining us, Trung. Without further ado, though, I'll jump into one of my favorite questions to start off, just to get the audience to know you a bit better.
Okay.
What have you been doing since social distancing began? Have you picked up any new hobbies? Have you been practicing anything?
That is a good question. Actually, I was practicing the Chinese calligraphy because it's funny, I kind of promised my grandpa, so I was doing that for a while, almost every day. I just want to be, keep the promise. I made the promise. I want to keep my promise. And
For
also,
sure.
I was also trying the new recipes. Recently, I tried the Korean cuisine. It's called kimchi soup.
Hmm.
I think the Korean name was like kimchi jjigae. Yeah,
Okay. And so
yeah.
you've been experimenting with different recipes. Have you decided that the kimchi is one of your favorites so far?
Yeah. It's definitely one of my favorite Korean food.
Awesome. Well, that's exciting. And I know you probably have a little more time than usual to be experimenting with food, so it's perfect to really hone in that knowledge and that experience now.
Yeah.
Um, Alrighty. So then one of the first questions that we always cover is chatting a bit about your journey to Lakehead and more importantly, kind of selecting Canada, selecting Lakehead, all that sort of stuff. So thinking back to many years ago when you were in high school even, and you were trying to consider what country to go to, what stood out and what made you decide to study in Canada?
So I attended a high school which is called Maple Leaf International School. So basically, we took British Columbia curriculum. It's very useful. Like I learned about Canadian history, Canadian culture, and all my teachers are from Canada. So basically, I learned Canadian English when I was in high school. You know, so I got an idea about Canada. And then later, the main reason I chose to come to Canada because there was a story behind it. When I was a kid, my grandma took me for shopping of shoes, a pair of shoes. I still remember when I was 4 or 5 during that time, there was a maple leaf pattern on the shoes. And
Hmm.
then I remember she asked me, do you know which country maple leaf represents for? And then I said, I don't know. Then she said, remember, it's Canada. That was the first time I heard another country's name called Canada.
So
Yeah.
it's always stuck with you that memory from when you were a little kid to buying those shoes to then
Mhm.
actually I guess that probably would have been 15 years later almost to selecting Canada to pursue the next step of education.
Yeah, and also, I learned a lot when I was in high school about Canada, so always want to come here to get some real Canadian experience. What
For
do you learn
sure.
from school and what do you really experience are different.
Of course, yeah.
Mhm.
And then also speaking a bit about obviously narrowing it down to Canada itself, thinking back, what helped you pick Lakehead? What stood out to Lakehead as one of the best options?
Well, personally, I really like the small size classrooms. Because I'm the person I kind of shy. Like when I first arrived in the new environment, I barely talk or I don't talk at all. I know that since I was in high school and I really want to conquer my weakness, so I decided to come to LU that most of my classes are small, so everyone would get a chance to talk to the professor. But I remember my first few years, I barely raised my hands during the class, but I always approached my professors after the class, and they're always there. They're very helpful and approachable.
For sure, yeah. And I speaking to that obviously is the fact that um, when you're in those classroom environments, if you aren't able to speak up in the classroom environment, having access to the professor itself and even right after class is hard to come by in some situations. But obviously, when we have our small classroom environments, which is something that we absolutely stand for,
Mhm.
that's the experience that our students are able to get. So I'm happy to hear that you liked that. Was there any other reasons that helped pick Lakehead?
Besides that, I know Lakehead has a really great environmental science and forestry program. And since I was a kid, my parents always took me for a hike, get close to the nature. That's why I want to come to Lakehead University to get to know more about nature.
For sure. Awesome. And then I'm curious, since you were going into natural resources management, did Thunder Bay's location within relation to the boreal forest have anything to do with it?
Mm, Actually, no, not really. Before I came to Canada, I didn't look on the map to see where Thunder Bay actually located. But it surprised me more when I first arrived. I like the nature, the view, and the weather is so nice, especially the air. I enjoyed it a lot.
Awesome. Well, I'm definitely happy to hear that. Um, uh, so obviously narrowing it down to Canada and then picking Lakehead, you went through the full application process and you were admitted. And then speaking about probably the weeks leading up to when you were taking your flight from China to eventually, I'm sure, Beijing, then Toronto, and then Thunder Bay, it would have been a long journey for you. Um, what were some of the emotions you were going through? What were you most excited about? What were you most nervous for before you left?
I was definitely most excited about finally I'm going to Canada. I'm gonna experience some Canadian life. That's for sure. But also I was worried a lot about my trip from Toronto to Thunder Bay because I was totally alone and um, yeah, and also I know that I'll be living on campus. I don't know my roommates. I haven't really practiced my spoken English. I was worried, what if I want to talk to someone, but I don't know how to say it properly. Yeah, I was nervous about those.
Fair enough. Yeah. And so, speaking a bit about your roommates, I know we're going to dive into your living on campus, but actually interacting with those roommates. Can you chat a bit about that experience?
You mean my roommates?
Yeah.
Okay, my first year roommates are super nice. So Um, I know LU, usually if you choose to live on campus, um, so before that, the residence group, they would send you an email a few months before you arrived, and then they would tell you who would be your roommates. So for me, my first roommates turned out to be two Canadian girls. Um, I was very nervous because Yeah, like, the culture and the language is totally different, but we're gonna live in the same room for at least same house, I mean, yeah, for about a year. What if we have some conflicts? Would it be like, lead to the fights? I was stressed about that. But it turned out they were super nice. Um, like we celebrated Thanksgiving together. We decorated the Christmas trees. They even like celebrate my first birthday in Canada together. Like they picked the Chinese restaurants in Thunder Bay. I was very surprised and I feel very touching when they did that. And like they're very friendly, and we slowly started talking. And one of them was in education background, but I have a feeling she might um, take me as her little sister or someone, because she's very. She tried to correct my grammar mistakes in the really nice way, and
Mhm.
she showed me how to cook some Canadian meals. Yeah, super nice. And sometimes if I stay in the library for so long, so late, and then they would kind of wait me in the living room, actually, leave
Oh,
a
they would
door.
wait up for you.
Yeah, yeah.
So I definitely I can see that with her background in education, she kind of has a natural sense to just want to help people learn and teach people.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that that was probably a benefit towards you to practicing your English skills and improving them too.
Yeah, and I think it really helped me build my confidence. You just always know that there's someone at your back, kind of like a family, I would say. So I'm proud to say that I didn't really experience homesick my first year.
Awesome. Well, I'm happy to hear that too.
Mhm.
Are there any other things that you were excited about with your journey to Canada?
Um, Well, I was also excited about meeting new people, like different new friends coming from all kinds of backgrounds.
For sure, yeah. And
Mhm.
why do you think it's important to, for you at least, to meet people from different backgrounds and from meeting new people in general?
I always want to learn about the like different culture. I want to know like we all come here. We might have something similar, but I always want to know why people also chose Thunder Bay, why people also chose Canada and come to Lakehead University. I want to learn. We must have at least something similar, so we could be friends.
For sure, yeah. And then also speaking to the nervous side again, was there any other things that you were a bit nervous about when you were making that journey to Canada?
Yeah, there's one thing. My flight come arrived in Thunder Bay was actually at the midnight. And I was alone. I was so worried. I never been here before, and then I have to be arrived at the midnight. Like
For
I was
sure.
so worried I might lost or just lost in the airport or lost somewhere.
And how did that end up working out? Did you find your way home or find your way to campus pretty easily?
Yeah, actually, Lakehead University International Student Office,
Services, yeah.
they have that free airport pickup service for all the new coming international students. Basically, you just signed up on the Google Doc about your flight information. Even if you have the trouble sign up with a Google Doc, you could just simply send them an email, and then yeah, someone will be waiting for you in the airport, no matter what time is it. Yeah, I really appreciate their services because, usually if you arrive at the airport in the midnight, either it's family members pick you up or it's someone you have to pay like a taxi. Those people would like to pick you up, but like it's free. The Lakehead University offered a free airport pickup services for all the new coming international students. That's super
Exactly,
good.
yeah. And
Nice.
I know I've been a part of that experience where I'm picking up students, and it's really great to welcome somebody and they know they have the confidence that it's someone who's in a similar situation as them, also a Lakehead student or a Lakehead staff member who's helping do the pickup. And so it's that face that you might not know yet, but you're going to get to know, or you might recognize on campus. And so just knowing that it's somebody from Lakehead is like, it's very nice for the pickup. And I've heard that from many students. So I'm very glad that you were able to get to your final destination safely, and obviously at no cost too. So we do have another question from a student. Are there any companies in relations with Lakehead's co-op? So Lakehead's co-op program varies. It has connections and partnerships with many companies. So from what I know is that the Lakehead's co-op program actually has over 140 national and international relations with companies around the world. So it really depends on sort of what program you're going to do the co-op within, and then of course what opportunities are available, because at the end of the day, the company itself has to be offering a co-op for you to then be eligible to go into that. But we do have a dedicated co-op advisor, and I know she's always willing to help students find that opportunity or help them, assist them in that process. But some of the really cool ones that we've heard of students doing, or I've heard of them doing, is for example, BlackBerry, Honda, IBM, RBC, the local hospital here, the Thunder Bay Regional Health Science Center. Those are just a few to name. I know some of those brands are major corporations around the world, and then of course other ones are local to Thunder Bay or the Aurelia community. So then moving on, Sharon, with regards to academics, obviously that's one of the main reasons we want to chat with you, is to really dive into natural resources management, environmental management, forestry. Looking way back, I know you started to mention this, but what was one of the first things, or what helped you pick your program? What helped you narrow it down to forestry in general?
Well, as I mentioned before, when I was a kid, my parents always took me to get closer to the nature. And then when I arrived in Thunder Bay, I noticed that, well, you know that, Jordan, we are surrounded by the boreal forest. So I just feel like, why not learn about trees? They're awesome. So I narrowed it down to forestry.
For sure. And then back when you were in high school, did you complete courses that kind of swayed that interest too? What did you focus on, science mostly or math at all?
Yeah, I focused more on science, to be honest. I took biology and chemistry, mathematics for sure. But I didn't take physics 12 when I was in high school, because I kind of know that I'm not an engineering person by that time. So I get rid of physics and then took biology, plant biology instead.
For sure. I don't blame you for wanting to skip out on physics.
It's a hard
And
course.
oh yeah, for sure. Then chatting a bit about your program. So you did two programs at Lakehead. Just a reminder of yours, you did the environmental management as your undergrad, and then you did a master's of science in forestry, or is it a master's of forestry? I can't remember which one.
It's called Master of Science in Forestry, and my undergrad program was called Environmental Management.
Okay, awesome. So looking back at those programs, could you highlight some of what you like most about them? What was your favorite thing to do within them?
My favorite thing to do when I was in school related to my program is definitely the field school. So every semester, like before school really started, we have a field school. So all your classmates, all the classes would get together, and then you sit on the school bus, and then you will go somewhere. My first 2 years, we just went around in Thunder Bay area, but not in downtown area. It was like a remote area, but it turned out a really good experience.
For sure, yeah. So you got to explore Northwestern Ontario, or at least the surrounding communities within Thunder Bay, and really dive into the forest. Not obviously, you're not in a concrete jungle downtown or anything.
True. And also in when students get to third year and fourth year, they will get a chance to go to another province or even the international field trip.
Awesome. So I think I remember correctly. Did you go to another province in your third year?
Yes, I'm lucky. I went to New Brunswick with my classmates.
Awesome. Do you have any photos from that trip to share with the audience, and then kind of
Oh yeah, for
walk
sure.
us through what was going on in those photos, what you were doing?
Okay. So, what during the field school, it's the idea that you will go into the trees, have some walk in the trees, but also you will go to the some wood factories to see how the wood will get processed and then it turn to be some paper or different products, wood boards. But also during field school, you will also get some free time. You will not like always spend the whole day in the trees or spend the whole day in the factories. You will get some free time. So when we were at New Brunswick, we happened to have some free time. I was very lucky. So we took a walk around, we took a hike, and this was me and my classmates. Yeah, we were just standing on the bridge, explore.
And yeah, that suspension bridge looks exciting, but I think it would probably make me a bit nervous. I know we have one in Thunder Bay that always makes me nervous because it's over the canyon.
Yeah. So I have another photo of me standing there. So you see the trees are pretty green and healthy, and then the weather is pretty good. It was always a nice weather before September. Like, at the end of August and start of September, the weather is always super nice.
Very nice, yes.
And then this was a photo we took at the restaurant. That was the first night we arrived in New Brunswick, Fredericton. So we had a really great meal to celebrate. Yeah, school starts and few school starts. Everyone was super excited.
Awesome. Yeah, and so obviously you mentioned that you do get free time in this trip, and obviously connecting with your classmates during that free time and exploring New Brunswick in general probably was a great bonding experience, but also just a lot of fun.
Yeah, another photo was we also got to visit the maple syrup factory. So at the end of the trip, we got to sit down in their kitchen or cafeteria and then enjoyed a little bit of their maple syrup with tea and some snacks. Everyone was relaxing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that.
I hope I could share you more photos with my field trip about what we actually did in the woods and also in the factories. But like most of the time we're busy. I was also taking down the notes, so I don't have the third hand to take a photo or recording myself. But I would love to explain in details if people ask specifically about what you did in the trees in the factory later.
Fair enough. Yeah. So for our viewers, if you have specific questions about the field school or the actual academic side of that trip, of course, let us know in the comments, let us know in the questions. We'll be happy to address those. Otherwise, continuing on with the topic of what do you like most about your programs, what else can you highlight about your favorite aspects?
Except the field school, I also enjoy doing some group work. So, when I first arrived in Canada, I don't really know how to express myself. I don't even like fully understand what the professors were saying during the class. So my classmates are super nice. They always gave me their notes after the class, so I could take another look to see what the professor said specifically. And then during group work, I think it's a really good chance to get to know your classmates better, get to know your courses better, and definitely group works always, yeah, like everyone contribute a little bit, and then you will get a better mark, to be honest.
For sure, yeah. And I think that group work is so important, especially in today's age where most working environments are very collaborative.
Mhm.
And in most cases, you won't get to choose your coworkers and you won't get to choose who you're put onto teams together. And you just have to learn to work with everyone. So
Yeah.
being put in group work within your actual course itself, I think is really a good learning opportunity for these students.
Yeah, I agree with you. Besides that, and during the group work, you have to talk somehow, and then it's another great opportunity to practice your spoken English.
For sure. So
Yeah.
we have a couple questions. I'll take the time to answer them. Um, so there's one from Brahim. Another question, is there any co-op for master's students or is it just bachelor students? Um, so yes, we do. We have co-ops for both undergraduate students and graduate students. So if you're completing a bachelor's or master's, there are several options to do that. I don't know the full listing of exactly which programs offer a co-op, but I also encourage you to explore. So for example, if your program might not offer a co-op, look into the actual department and see if there's any experiential learning opportunities. One of the things that I know Lakehead is really focused in on is the involvement of students in research opportunities with professors or experiential learning opportunities within the community. So if it's a hands-on learning aspect or an external working group, those are just some of the examples I can think of off the top of my head, where if you aren't completing a co-op, there's still definitely opportunities to get the hands-on experience that will definitely help you be more successful in your future career. Another question we had is that I want to know about international students in the scholarship program. So we do have an undergraduate scholarship program for international students. It is a merit-based or an academic merit-based scholarship program, which means that your marks in your home country during high school, or if you are if you've started your program in university and you're transferring, so you haven't actually completed the full program, all of our international students in those situations are eligible for the scholarship program if they're entering undergraduate, of course. And so I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but I do know that one of the largest scholarships that you can get is a total sum of $30,000 over your undergraduate program. So it's $7,500 for each year. And then you do have to maintain your average to continue on receiving that scholarship. But it's really great to see when students get those scholarships and they can maintain them. Because obviously that helps pay towards tuition, pays towards fees in general. A question for you, Sharon.
Okay.
It's from, or pardon me, it's, do you mind explaining more about wood structuring and producing related to forest science?
Could you please repeat the question again, Jordan?
For sure, yeah. If you're not sure, also don't worry. Obviously, I know that you have your focused areas, so this might not be your exact field of expertise. But do you mind explaining more about wood structuring and producing related to forest science?
Uh, I would save some time for our chat, and I will answer that question later.
Okay, if not, we can always, what I would encourage that student to do, if you want to send us a direct message on Instagram, you can send us to the message asking the exact same question, or at least asking to be connected with Natural Resources Management. What we can do then is actually connect you with a professor or a faculty member within the department, and they would be happy to address that question. As I mentioned, obviously, that's a pretty specific question, so I don't want to put you on the spot there necessarily.
Well, it will be very long answers, so I would like to say let's save some time to chat more about student life and my experience involved in the club.
Fair enough, yeah. Another question we had is, due to COVID-19, will the fall semester be held online? If yes, how long will the online classes be held for? So really great question. We have already announced that our fall semester will be primarily online for our courses with alternative delivery methods. So what that means is that for our online courses, there are going to be different options and how those will be completed. And every single course is unique in the sense that the professors and the faculty members that teach those courses have really sat down over the last few months and started to consider how can we still teach the exact same course as if it was in person in an online method and make sure that the standards of learning and the learning outcomes are the exact same. And so we know that the timetable actually was released today or will be released today. And you can already start exploring what the program delivery will be. So whether it will be fully online, if there are any special courses that might require alternative delivery methods. That's something I encourage each of our applicants or each of our students to research on their own. As for the second part of the question, how long will online classes be held for? So right now we've announced only our fall semester is online. And to be very frank and honest, it's simply too early to announce what will happen for this winter term. Of course, we will abide by public health advisories and what the federal government recommends for all institutions across Canada. And at that point, then we'll make the best decision that will ensure health and safety for all of our students, all of our faculty, and all of our staff. One more question here. Are there any scholarships for graduate programs? So speaking to that a bit, there are limited graduate funding opportunities. So there are GA-ships or graduate assistantships, which means that essentially you assist a professor in some of their course material with other programs. So if they're teaching an undergraduate course, they might need assistance in preparing some of that material, preparing slide decks, grading material, reviewing marks, all that sort of stuff, uploading marks, and obviously being a resource to those undergraduate students. As a graduate assistant, you would be helping with that, and it's a paid position. There are also faculty research scholarships or funding opportunities, but those are very specialized and unique, and those can be explored on our website. So if you go to lakeheadu.ca/international, you click the Future Student tab, there's a Scholarships and Awards section, and there's actually a link directly to the graduate funding page on there. Awesome, so I think we answered most of the questions we received there. And I know that we're gonna loop back and come into that other one, but first, I wanna chat a bit about academics one more time and ask you about some of the research that you were involved in within your programs.
So I did my last year, my 4th-year thesis with the related to the green space management in Thunder Bay. Doing that, I got to know that different kinds of green spaces, such as there are city parks, corridor area, reservation area, and then I happen to know that some reservation areas are actually personal owned. I mean, there is an institution called Lakehead. Do you remember? I'm trying to figure out the specific name that, like close to school. Lakehead Region Conservation Authority. Yeah. Yeah, they own some lands. And when I was chatting with them during my research, they did said, yeah, it's private owned, but they allow public people to enter into their space. But what concerned them most is some people, they left so many garbages around the area. So yeah, I just feel like public people should raise awareness that we should always pick up our garbage, just leave nothing except leave your footprints, take nothing except taking photos.
Awesome. I would absolutely agree with that, and obviously I think it's important. The research that you're doing as an international student who is leaving a significant impact within our local community of Thunder Bay in doing research related to green spaces, whether they're public, private. I'm sure, as you mentioned, that helped you kind of explore and learn the difference between green spaces, if they're public, if they're private, if they're a municipal green space, if they're a provincial, or if they're federal. That probably helped you too.
Yeah, they have different ways to maintain their space. Because I have to say, when I was doing my research, I'm really lucky. I got the chance to talk to the city of Thunder Bay, like park management officer, and then
Mhm.
comparing what he said with the officer at the Lakehead Region Conservation Authority said, it's like different. They have different way to manage their area, and the maintenance method is also different.
For sure. Was there any other research opportunities that you were involved in that you enjoyed?
Well, I wouldn't say those are research opportunities, but one of the course I really, really like was called the Natural Resources and Indigenous People. That was a course I took at third year, and um, I know lots of people might heard about located at Northern Ontario. We have lots of Indigenous people living around us. And then people may not just Google like who are the Indigenous people. So I got a little bit idea from high school because I was taking some social studies. And then when I arrived in Canada, I never thought that I would get the chance to take a deeper look or deeper study about how Indigenous people manage their land, manage how they're gonna use the natural resources. So yeah, that was a really good course. And then at the end of the term, everyone has to pick a topic and then write an essay. My topic was the oil sand in Alberta, related to the Indigenous people.
Awesome. And obviously, speaking to that is with that class, it sounds like you learned about how they maintain their land in a very traditional way compared to some of the more, I would say, modern or I don't know how to phrase it, but the way that you learn, the way that the natural resources management might teach you how to maintain the land, or how you see in your other research how the local Thunder Bay government versus the private sector, how they manage their land. Everyone has their own take at how to do it properly or how to do it in meeting their traditions, but obviously learning about what's been happening for hundreds of years within Canada and how they've managed the land is very interesting, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
So then chatting, I know we're going to segue into the next topic of student life. And I know that's really exciting because you lived on campus in residence for a few years. You were involved in quite a few clubs. So first we'll start off with residence. Can you chat about where you lived and maybe what your favorite memory is from residence?
Okay, so where I lived on campus was it's called Bear Skin area. It's an area of townhouses. So in the townhouse, it's different house as it sounds like, and then you have two floors. So basically, you will get 4 bedrooms at the second floor, and the living room, storage room, and kitchen, they will be located at the first floor.
For sure, yeah. And then while you were living there or in residence in general, it doesn't have to necessarily be related to your housing. What was your favorite experience or favorite memory?
Well, there were a lot, I have to say, because living on campus, you got more chances to be involved in the student life, like the student community, because, most of the time, most of the first year students will be put in the residence. And then everything was accessible. So on the weekend, yeah, each residence area would have a residence assistant. They will always organize some interesting events, so such as movie night or doing some crafts together. So you always have some things to do during the weekend. You will never feel bored. And also, when I was living on campus, there are lots of animals, like friendly animals around. You got the chance to see deers, or sometimes you're lucky, you might see some fox. Like I got to see that my first
Yeah,
year, like in a short distance. It's pretty cool, I would say.
for sure. There's definitely a lot of nature on campus and quite a bit of
Mhm.
animals that I get to explore and roam around.
Yeah, I happened to found my first photo of the deers I saw on the red living on campus. I'll
Oh
show you
yeah,
in a second.
for sure.
Yeah, so you see, like they showed up at the backyard, so it's pretty cool. Yeah.
I like how the one on the left there is kind of looking right at you, saying like, "What's she doing?"
Yeah, I know. Like they're not afraid of people at all.
Yeah, they're pretty accustomed to interacting or at least being around people while on campus.
Yeah. And also, living on campus, another thing I really enjoyed that experience is everything is accessible. You got to go to the gym, the libraries, and the classrooms, the labs. It's like just 10 minutes walk, I would say. And also, I know some people might have the concern that like Lakehead University is located at the Northern Ontario. It could be cold, very cold during the winter. But personally, I don't think that concerned me that much because on campus we have tunnels. Basically, the tunnels connected almost all the buildings together. So in the winter, if it's just so cold or like snowing outside, I always take the tunnels to go to the classes. And the tunnels may not connect all the buildings, but still you just go out, you use the tunnels to reach to the closest point, and then you go upstairs. It's less than a minute walk. So
For
I feel
sure,
like
yeah.
it's very convenient.
I agree. Yeah, I certainly appreciate the tunnels on some of the colder days, and then obviously, I was surprised to learn that lots of students, um, obviously, they might come from very different environments or climates, and so their homes and their buildings aren't regulated temperature-wise like we do in Canada. So in the winter, all of our buildings are fully heated. They constantly have very warm air, obviously moving throughout the entire building, and that's powered. But then also in the winter, or pardon me, in the summer, it certainly gets hot in Thunder Bay, and the buildings can get hot at the same time. So at the same time, we're pushing cold air through the building, so we're running the air conditioning to make
Yeah.
sure that the temperatures are all a nice temperature for everyone living on campus or also studying on campus, being on campus in general. Obviously, for me working on campus, it's important that everything works out. We have another question. That we were obviously talking about the airport pickup service, and this student would like to know, is it available for those students who haven't chosen on-campus housing? So yes, the airport pickup service is available to all students, all new incoming students, whether you're going to an on-campus location or off-campus housing. All you have to do is then in that form that Sharon mentioned, where you actually have to complete it and say, this is when I'm arriving, these are some more details. You'll have to include what your final destination address is. So whether it's going to be Bartley residence on the Thunder Bay campus, or whether it's going to be an off-campus a house or an apartment with some roommates, you just have to put that final destination in there so we can determine beforehand where you're going, and we can relay that information and properly plan around that too. So then I'm curious to know, when you were living on residence, you were in townhouses for the 3 years, so you had the kitchen there.
Oh,
Did
I had
you end up,
4 years living
oh,
on
for
campus.
4 years, pardon me. Did you end up cooking for most of your time, or what did that look like?
Um, well, when I first arrived in Thunder Bay, I don't know how to cook at all. But luckily, the cafeteria, they have all kinds of um, meal plan options. So I have to choose the unlimited one because basically you can go to the residence cafeteria as much as you want, and yeah, even just grab a coffee, just go there. It's very convenient. You just after the class, you could go there and have a meal, decent meal. Maybe you're lucky you could sit beside your classmates and then you could just chat. Um, it's it's a very good experience. And then like at my second year, I somehow I want to start learning how to cook. So
Yeah,
I changed my meal plan, but sometimes, like students are still busy. So I changed the meal plan to a different one. Basically, I think it was just half semester or something. I don't remember exactly. So, but when I'm not busy, I try to cook on campus, like because we have a kitchen in the townhouse. I try to cook for myself, but during the like before the exams, I got busy or I was busy with the student studies. I would just go to the cafeteria, just grab me a meal, either eating the cafeteria or I would just grab a meal and take it back to the residence and eat.
for sure. Yeah, and I think that also speaks to the flexibility of those meal plans. So, like you mentioned, when you had the opportunity to cook and you had the time to cook, you did so to prep your meals. But
Mhm.
then when it came time to midterms, exams, really busy periods for any student, it was convenient for you to then be able to switch back to the cafeteria and get a quick meal without having to put in all the time and effort necessarily.
Yeah. Another reason I enjoyed dining in the cafeteria because they have all kinds of cuisines there. Uh, Basically, I don't like such as Asian food or um, vegetarian. And if you love meat, there are all kinds of meat, and then it would not repeat every day. So I know like it's kind of fun to try different food every day. And
For
sometimes
sure.
there will be some really great meal. You just like it, and then it will be like a surprise for the day, the highlight of
Yeah,
the day, I would say.
for sure. And then speaking a bit about your involvement with the Chinese Student and Scholars Association. So CISA is that how you call it? That's
Yeah.
like the short form? Okay. So I'll
Mhm.
call it CISA from now on. Can you explain to our viewers what CISA is then?
So CSSA stands for Chinese Students and Scholars Association. Basically, it's everyone on campus, like all the Chinese students were sometimes involved with the professors or like campus staff. Like if even if they're only if they're Chinese, get together once in a while to celebrate Chinese New Year, or if there is a school events going on, such as Culture Day, like the CISA would get involved and to represent Chinese culture.
For sure. So it's an opportunity for you to connect with your fellow students from China, but also to celebrate the Chinese culture, Chinese holidays, and share that knowledge with people, like you said, going to those events and kind of representing through CISA, which is, I
Yeah, for
think, really
sure.
great to hear.
Mhm.
So why did you end up joining the group to start off?
It's actually a long story, but I will keep it short.
Okay.
One of my best friends, she used to work at the Multicultural Center. So every year, or every semester, Multicultural Center, they would organize an event called Culture Day. They will try to contact all the students coming from all kinds of backgrounds, and then the students will like somehow get up some ideas, and then um, put it together and show people about their culture. So when my friend was working at the Multicultural Center, um, they want to get China involved, of course, and then she just approached to me because back to that time we don't have that many Chinese students as today. So I stood there and then kind of represent China. And then later a girl approached to me, a Chinese girl, and then she was a member of CISA. Yeah, although I said we don't have that many Chinese students back to that time, but CISA was existing. So
Yeah, for sure.
she just told me, oh, looks like you are a good candidate for joining the CISA, and then yeah, we could come up some ideas, and then we could help more Chinese students. That's why I joined CISA.
Awesome. So obviously, it's interesting to hear that through your other volunteer opportunities, someone recognized that you were already kind of volunteering and sharing knowledge about Chinese culture with Multicultural Center. And then they approached you and said, like, this is something that you should join. So chatting a bit, I want to give you the opportunity to share what your roles are, because I think you should be really proud about where you got within that club. So I'll pass it over to you again.
Well, like I was so from a general member at the beginning, I became a treasurer my third year, I think. Just try to organize the how we're gonna spend the money and then buy stuff. I try to keep everything noted down. And then my fourth year and during my master's, I think it was my fourth year, I was the president. But I'm not a very good president because I focus too much on my studies, but I try my best to like help students. And then when school, the international office organize the event, I try my best to cooperate.
Awesome. Well, I still think it's really important that you were involved, and obviously you climbed the ladder to get to the top eventually. Why was it important to you to kind of be involved in such a group?
For me, like personally, I like opportunities. No, sorry, I like volunteering opportunities. So that was the basic idea. But also, I know when I first arrived, we don't have that many Chinese students. But I was lucky. I had my roommates, I had my classmates, and then I made some really great friends. But I know not all of the people were like this when they first arrived. So I want all the new coming Chinese students to feel welcomed, and then I want them to feel Thunder Bay or Lakehead University could like be their background, and then could give them the feeling like your home. So yeah, that was my idea.
Awesome. Well, I definitely like to hear that. Um, so one of the other photos that I was gonna, or do you have any photos of CISA actually before we move on to the next one?
Oh, yes, I do. So every year in September, when school starts, CISA would always organize their own orientation. So every year, they would get all the new coming Chinese students together, and then we would hike somewhere, not like a really weird place, just like safe place for sure. And then so everyone had the chance to know someone, even though you maybe like you don't, by the time you don't want to speak English, it's fine, but you can always make friends with some Chinese people,
For sure.
people won't feel lonely. So I'll show you a photo. That was a group photo we took a few years ago. I know it was yeah, everyone, you may not see me, but it was
Okay.
taken 2 years ago. Jordan, you should guess where we took this photo.
Is that on Mount McKay?
Yes, you're right.
I thought so. Yeah, I mean, we've been fortunate enough to do quite a few hikes ourselves to Mount McKay with work. So it's always great to see when students get to go and enjoy the views there. And they're honestly breathtaking. I mean, seeing the city of Thunder Bay and seeing Lake Superior and Sleeping Giant from such a unique perspective is really great. And obviously, this group photo kind of represents the connections that you're able to establish within your own little community, but then with Lakehead in general, and your connections to Thunder Bay also.
Yeah, and I know some residence assistant, if you're lucky, and then they would organize some events, hike up to the Mount McKay. And also I know the International Student Life Office, they would also organize events, some hike events around Thunder Bay area. It's pretty cool, I would say.
Perfect. So the next thing I want to give you the opportunity to do is chat a bit about some advice that you give to future students, because I know we have a few minutes before the live will end itself because we're coming close to that hour mark. So I want to give you the opportunity to give your advice for our current students watching right now that are incoming?
Okay, I would say be open-minded and then try to get involved in all the opportunities you get, even though it's just a small events and you're just volunteering. I want to say that Lakehead University is a really great platform. It provides you all kinds of opportunities that help students to achieve success. So come to Thunder Bay, come to Lakehead University, give yourself a chance to learn and give Lakehead University a chance to help you.
Awesome.
Besides that, I want to say, like when you first arrive, don't worry about making mistakes. Everyone would make mistakes. Most importantly, you need to learn from why you made the error. That's it.
For sure, yeah. No one's perfect when they first arrive or start something new. And I totally agree that even the smallest mistake is a learning opportunity, and that's how when you look at it like that, and you consider if you make a mistake and you grow from that mistake, obviously you probably won't make that same mistake twice or again. But like I said, it's an opportunity to grow from there and then continue building your confidence and getting more familiar with that situation or that environment.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
well, I definitely want to thank you for joining us. We covered quite a bit today. I know we really chatted for a long time. So it was great to chat with you again, catch up, and obviously learn about your journey at Lakehead. And I'm excited to see now that you've graduated and whatnot, sort of what the future holds for you.
Okay.
Awesome. So
Thanks for
for
having me,
this,
Jordan.
no worries. Yeah, and for the student that wanted to learn a bit more about that very specific question within forestry and wood products, I certainly encourage you to reach out to us directly, and we'd be happy to get you connected so that we can get that answer to you still. Otherwise, I'll say bye for now. Thank you for joining us. If you're able to, or if you're interested in joining us tomorrow, we are hosting a Faculty Friday with Sustainability Sciences, and we're going to chat all about that program and sort of the opportunities that lie within it. So hopefully you're able to join us. If you're looking to register, you can click the link in our Instagram bio, and you're off to the races. Alrighty, bye for now. Thank you again.
All right. Bye, Jordan.